What's up, meatbags? It is the often imitated, never duplicated, chosen one of CG, Chicano Stanley, your buddy, your pal, your friend, Frog Tony. And today we're going to be talking about this debate, smut in comics. We got Stokes, we got B.A. Turner, Black Angus was doing the moderating. Eventually, they bring in Tyler, I believe, Godflow of the Universe, and Mindy Wheeler. They all get in there, and it just becomes a wild cluster of a debate. And it really highlights a lot of the reasons I hate these online debates. A lot of shouting, a lot of personal attacks. They move the goalposts onto different topics, right? They start in one place. They go, hey, we're debating smut comics, and they have an advantage over non-smut. And then suddenly it's what is smut, and then they're debating whether or not smut should exist. Then they're debating whose comics made more money. Then it's just personal attacks. It's all over the place. That's why I really hate these online debates. But I did talk to BA in the group chat, and we discussed this. I was like, hey, I got around to watching this, and I was going to get my thoughts tonight. And he was like, well, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. And so we ended up discussing this. So what I'm saying here is not going to be too different from what I said in the group chat, right? So it's not like I'm saying anything that BA hasn't heard already. It's what I'm articulating at this point. Now, the idea, the premise that smut comics have some sort of advantage over non-smut comics. Now, this is just completely ludicrous, right? In order for this to be true, right? In order for the smut comic to have an advantage over non-smut, the people going to the website, going to whether it's Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Fund My Comic, their personal websites, wherever it is they're going to buy their books, they would have to be already willing and open to buying smut, right? Someone who's not predisposed to purchasing smut is probably not going to purchase smut, no matter how appealing or interesting or nice the cover might look, right? And I think that's really the crux of the issue is the appeal of the cover, right? We know cheesecake is going to get people's attention. It's going to get people to stop. Whoa, what's that? Let me check that out. Let me see what that's about, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that the comic is going to sell more. If you have a beautiful Dale Keown cover, right? That's going to stop as many people as a sexy cheesecake cover, in my opinion, right? Now, we definitely don't have the numbers. I can't run any statistics on this, right? There's no way to actually get it. But, anyone with common sense will tell you a beautiful cover that has no smut in it, but it's just very dynamic, very interesting. It's appealing. The colors pop and everything looks good about that cover. That will draw just as much attention as a cheesecakey cover will, right? And then it just ultimately comes down to whether the person wants to buy a cheesecake comic, whether the person is interested in the story or whatever it is that the rest of the campaign page has, right? Maybe the price is too much. Maybe the price is just right. So having an advantage, I'm going to say no, they don't. They don't have an advantage, right? And I would even say in a lot of ways they have a disadvantage because people that are looking for really smutty things probably are going to very specific websites, very specific places, right? What's on Indiegogo and Kickstarter and stuff like that is probably less smutty than the crazy things that might be out there, right? And I think that's another issue that we were having, and whether it was in the debate, quote unquote, that we were having in the group chat or the one that we're having here, is because the idea, the definition, what is smut, right? BA takes a hard line stance at any lesbianism, smut. Any lewdness up to a certain degree. He didn't really quantify what that degree was, but I guess he'll know it when he sees it, right? If it gets too lewd, that's smut. He did say, though, having a smut cover or having smut images doesn't necessarily make it a smut book. It has to be a majority of smut images. I would tend to disagree with this, right? I would think that First off, I don't got no problems with lesbians. Two sexy ladies kissing on a cover is fine with me. But jokes aside, I would think that the contents, whether or not it is super graphic, would dictate more if it's smut than how much it is, right? Like if there's one super graphic scene, let's say the book is 30 pages, but 10 of those pages, 1/3 of the book is super graphic, hardcore smut, right? But in BA's estimation, that wouldn't be smut because it's not the majority, right? It's only 1/3 of the book. 2/3 of the book is clean. Let's say the other 2/3 are completely clean, no cheesecake, no nothing, just nice, wholesome story, right? So by his estimation, that wouldn't be smut. Whereas another book that has just a lot of lewdness, but it's all over the place, right? Say exposed breast and butt, just on every page, right? For him, that would be smut because it's everywhere, right? And again, I think most people go, well, that's not as bad as the other thing, right? Like just a few nudes versus hardcore sexual deviation, right? So again, I think the definitions were really a problem. Godfo had another definition. Mindy Wheeler came in with her definition. It's just all over the place, right? So that's another issue that they were having in this debate. Ultimately, in the conversation that I had with BA, he said that his real issue was the fact that people who are using smut or lewds or cheesecake to sell their book were being dishonest about admitting that. And I don't think that's true. Like, he couldn't give any examples of people who did this, right? And I think most people who use cheesecake, who use lewd covers, who peddle in smut, will tell you that they are in fact smut peddlers, right? I don't think they hide from it. I think that's their selling point. That's their marketing angle. Hey, we have smut. All those sexy images that you get in Marvel and DC. Well, we go that one step further, right? That's it's their bread and butter. So I don't think anyone's denying, I mean, even Niobe, people don't like Niobe, but he says that he uses the sexy covers to get people to buy the book, and then he tricks them because they think they're getting a cheesecake book, but actually they're getting female X-Men, which is horrible marketing because I would feel betrayed if I bought that book thinking I was going to get some cheesecake and I got female X-Men. I might be a little let down, right? His audience might be a little tricked. They might not want female X-Men. The last point I want to make is BA was saying that smut comics reflect bad on the entire indie comic scene. And I 100% disagree with this statement. This statement to me makes no factual sense at all. Doesn't pan out to reality, right? If you look at all the other industries, every other industry that has a smut equivalent, right? You have Hollywood, and then you have the smutty adult films, right? Just because smutty adult films exist doesn't mean people think lesser of Hollywood, right? Hollywood has its own problems as to why people think lesser of them, but it's not because of the smut films, right? Magazines. People don't suddenly go, oh man, I really like magazines, but I don't know if I can buy magazines now because smut magazines exist, right? Smut video games exist. That don't suddenly make people go, I don't want to play regular video games because those smut ones exist, right? Smutty books, smutty drawings, smutty paintings, smutty records, right? Smut exists in all forms of media, and yet the cleaner side doesn't experience anything, right? Now he tried to say, well, why doesn't Marvel just do that? Because that's not Marvel's business model, right? Marvel sells to young adults, consumers of all ages, right? They're not in the smut business. They don't do that because they don't need to. If what BA was saying is true that smut would make them more money, then yeah, they would do that probably. But they don't have to. They're making enough money as it is, right? Um, so the idea that smut smut indie comics somehow makes the rest of the indies look bad, I think that's just factually incorrect, right? Most people who are not looking for smut comics don't know they exist, so they have no opinion of them. Famous smut comics from Ralph Bakshi's stuff. You got Fritz the Cat and all that good things over there, right? People remember these. These are classics. These are held in high esteem, right? By BA's, definition, Frank Fazetta's work, some of that would be considered smut, you know. Uh, but I don't think, again, even though they exist, even though smut is a thing, it doesn't make anyone, I think, have a lesser opinion of other indies, right? It's not ruining the image of indie comics. And it's definitely shouldn't be ruining the image of your comic, right? I think your comic, whether, and I'm not just saying BA, I'm saying you as in you, the audience. If you're releasing a comic, or if you're, uh, going to make some form of art, uh, it's going to live or die on your marketing. It's going to live or die on your ability to make it appeal to an audience, right? Uh, unless you associate with someone who's very toxic, or someone whose uh, reputation is really being dragged through the mud, um, your comic will just live or die with you and your ability to market it, right? Uh, no one's gonna go, man. I really want to buy this new Stokes comic, but you know what? This Shane Davis comic exists, so I can't buy Stokes's comic, right? I would buy that BA book, but hey, that John A. Douglas book exists, right? No one says that. That's just not a thing. So why would you think it applies somehow to smut? Oh man, I really want to buy that new Cyber Frog, but oh man, smut comics are a thing, so I can't buy it. No, it doesn't happen. It's not real, right? Uh, maybe in some weird, like, ultra super fucking conservative place where they're like, hey, all of that is evil, right? If one smut exists in some form, it just taints the entire medium, right? And I guess there's some weird, like, backwoods cult that might think that way. But I think most normal people, don't think that way. Uh, but let me know what you think. Am I off base? Am I wrong to think that it's not a big deal? Smut comics existing, they don't have an advantage over anything else. They're on equal footing. They're fighting for the same dollars. They're fighting for the same space, the same attention as anyone else. Let me know. And as always, love, peace, booty grease. I'm out this bitch.